Hello everyone, my name is the Ultimate Spy, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 191. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Far From Home, the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, and the 11th and final film in Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as the 23rd Marvel movie overall. So, what did I think of Spider-Man Far From Home? I really enjoyed it. Oh my god, it was a great film. I mean, it's the first post-snap Marvel film, so like the events of Endgame really affected this movie a lot, and in a lot of different ways. Like what the world was like after half of all life was erased, and then how it was all brought back. So I definitely feel like the ending of Endgame really affected this movie in a lot of ways, and kind of sees where the world is after that, and kind of where Peter is after that because of Iron Man's sacrifice. And that's what this movie has a lot of imagery for, is Iron Man's sacrifice. And we see Iron Man everywhere, so it's kind of like it's affecting Peter in a lot of ways. And he's struggling with it a lot. Like, he's trying to figure out where his place is in the world, because everyone thinks he's going to be the next Iron Man, which is clearly it's not going to be. But still, I mean, I thought this was an incredible sequel to Homecoming. Homecoming, I liked, but I definitely feel like this one improved upon Homecoming a lot more. Going to different parts of the world, like Venice, like Prague, like London, the Netherlands even, like all over the world. That's why it's called Far From Home, because Peter goes all around the world. Unlike Homecoming, where it's like him in high school. What's really interesting is that he has to start high school all over again because he was snapped away. And this will making him do the entire thing over again. Except this time, he's going on his class trip, which is very fun. So I definitely feel like this one improved upon the original a lot by making it more exciting and, different. Making it very unique. So that's what I liked a lot about this. I was very impressed by it. And the opening Columbia Pictures logo actually transitions to an actual statue in Mexico, which is very cool. It's a very unique way of doing it because, of course, Sony and Columbia Pictures own the rights to Spider-Man, and they're only sharing it with Marvel Studios until, like, Disney buys Sony somehow, but that's never going to happen. But, like, still, it's a really cool transition. I really like that. And especially with the Marvel intro, it's very unique. It's the same intro we've always had, with all the same heroes. I hope we eventually get a new one, like in the Black Widow movie, because it's been 3 years since we had the new intro, and I would like to have a new one because, some of the heroes are no longer with us because, Iron Man and Black Widow are gone, and Captain America retired. I really hope they're going to give us a new one, but at the same time, they might not. They may just have the same old one forever, but, like, mainly because the MCU is going forward with new characters, new stories, and a new Avengers team, whatever that's going to be. So, like, I would kind of like them to do a new intro. Hopefully that'll happen, but for this one, they had a song in the background, just much like Endgame, and it was basically, with Endgame, it was just like half the characters were gone, but with this movie, they're all there, because it's just another song, which is very weird, because, like, it's such a weird way of doing the intro, just, like, replacing the background theme song with a different one. It's just very strange, but that's the way it is. And at the beginning, we also got a really cool recap for the heroes we lost, like Tony Stark and Black Widow both dead. Captain America, the world thinks he's dead because he retired. And then we have Vision dead, which means we don't have a lot of heroes left for the Avengers team. And actually, when the video that we see that recaps the events of Endgame, it kind of shows us a snap and everything like that, it's a bit inaccurate because it shows us some of the characters that helped out bringing everybody back, but also some of the characters that were snapped that helped out. But that is not true, because we had the characters that were snapped that apparently the mid and high thinks were helping in the process of bringing everybody back, were Black Panther, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Winter Soldier. And it's still missing Thor and Hulk, which is very strange. But, like, plus the characters that we see in the recap picture are from different MCU films. Like, Iron Man is from the first Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, and Ant-Man are all from Civil War. I think even Black Panther also, and then Hawkeye from the first Avengers film. It's like, it's a bit of a mess. I didn't like that very much. It was like, really? It's just kind of like, it felt like a mess of a picture. Like, they weren't even trying. In the beginning of the film, we have Marie Hill and Nick Fury, who they may not actually be who they are. And in Captain Marvel, Nick Fury says that he goes by Fury, not Nick, not Nicholas, just Fury. And then Maria Hill, who works with him, she calls him Nick, which is, like, weird because, like, something happened at the end of Infinity, which means that there's a possibility that she only calls him Nick because they're really close. Like, they have a close friendship, almost like a romance. I mean, I don't know if that's actually true, but, like, it's possible because she's the only one who actually calls him Nick, and it's just weird because no one else calls him Nick. So, like, maybe that's a clue that they're not actually Nick Fury and Maria Hill. but I don't know. And one of the things that I thought was really cool about the events of Endgame that affect this movie is that Betty Brant tells us how half of all life was gone, and then how the Avengers brought everyone back, and then we see like the events of the snap, like everyone just turns to death, just like Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then we see the effect of the Hulk snap, which is very cool. We see them suddenly just popping out of nowhere, like it's what they call the blip, and it's so stupid, but like it's really cool to see that what actually happened in the moment that Hulk started from back. I don't like the name of the blip. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't like it at all. Like call it the snap. I mean, it makes more sense because like you're snapping everyone back, but like the blip, really? Yeah, I didn't like it at all. It was stupid. It was like really what the hell? I don't like that. It was a very dumb name. I really it's one of the things I'm like you could call it something more exciting than the blip. It's just like stupid. Really did not like that. And one of the students in the recap video for Midtown High after the snap happened 8 months ago, which actually I think it's inaccurate because Emergency Awesome, he's a professional YouTuber that I follow. He stated that Far From Home takes place minutes after the events of Endgame, which means that there's no way that Far From Home could take place 8 months after because, obviously with Homecoming it takes place 8 years after the events of the original Avengers, which makes sense because then it would be set in the year 2020, which makes no sense at all. So I think there's a bit of an error there. It's supposed to take minutes after, like literally right after the events of Endgame, like the moment that Peter gets back to Midtown High at the end of Endgame, that's when the movie picks up. So I think that's an error. If you think that's wrong, if you think there's an actual timeline, then let me know. But I'm pretty sure it's minutes, not 8 months, minutes. So a little bit of an error. But one of the students during the recap asked if the Avengers are still a thing anymore, and they are. There's just not as many of them. So as I said before, Iron Man and Black Widow are dead, along with Vision, dead by Thanos. And then Captain America, who the world thinks is dead, is retired. He lived his life with Peggy Carter, until present day, so he's an old man now, so he's retired. Which means that leaves, in terms of original Avengers, that leaves Thor and Hulk. And then for new Avengers, as of the events of Age of Ultron, with that ending scene, and then also the new characters we have Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. And then we have the Falcon, Winter Soldier, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, War Machine, and then Black Panther. So that means that's 9 new Avengers left if you're going to count Black Panther. Although he's the king of Wakanda, he's not really an official Avenger. In fact, the characters that were never called Avengers, at least until Endgame, because they were part of the final battle, are Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Wasp, and then Winter Soldier. Now, I'm pretty sure Ant-Man is still an Avenger, but still, that's still like 9, at least 9 characters left that are Avengers. Of the 2 left from the original team, because Hawkeye retired too. And yeah, that's basically all that's left. So they are a thing anymore. They're just kind of scattered all over the place. I don't know where everyone is. Well, everyone's supposed to be in their little Disney Plus show or upcoming movie. So we got Scarlet Witch with the WandaVision show, and then we have Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, and then we have Falcon and Winter Soldier in their little series. So I know the Kevin Feige teased that the team would look very different, and that's true. They will be looking very different. We're probably going to have those 9 characters plus more. So we're definitely getting more superheroes. I don't know what the team's going to look like. I think a lot of people are speculating that they're going to do a Young Avengers movie, or if not that, start with a series on Disney Plus and then go to the movie. Like build the team up and then go to a movie. So it's a possibility. So I don't know about the character that was left if they're still Avengers. Winter Soldier was never actually called an Avenger, but technically he is because he was in the Avengers battle. So technically he is an Avenger. So there you go. So they're still there. They're still around. And when Happy shows up for the first time since the events of Endgame, he wasn't the very end of that movie because he didn't survive the snap, as far as I know. He's obviously having a weird relationship with Aunt May because she's the youngest incarnation of Aunt May yet, because she's supposed to look like a grandmother in the comics, but she does not. So this one, she's like the youngest version. So Happy has a thing for Aunt May, and it's so weird. Of course, Uncle Ben is no longer a thing in the MCU. He obviously died. There's a point where this is from the trailer actually, where Happy is complimenting Aunt May, and then she compliments his beard, and he's like, "Oh, it's my blip beard." And good blip. It's like, no, you didn't, because you had the beard in Homecoming, so that wouldn't make sense. You didn't grow it in the blip. It's been there since Homecoming at least. So yeah, it's a bit of an error right there. And a little Easter egg for Feast from the Spider-Man PS4 game, which I actually love the hell out of. It's probably one of the best Spider-Man games I've played. I mean, there's been a lot of Spider-Man games I've played, but that's probably the best one I've had. And Feast is part of that game. And there's a homeless shelter in this movie, which could be a reference to that same shelter in the game. And actually, Aunt May is in charge of the entire place. So it's a really cool Easter egg. I mean, I don't think it's actually based off that, but it's kind of like a little nod to the game. I don't know if they would do it on purpose. I mean, I do know that the film actually makes some references to the game, and not just in the scene, but also at the end of the movie when Peter is swinging around as Spider-Man. He takes a selfie where he's doing this, and it's actually from one of the screens of the game. If you're using the Star Trek suit, which is very cool. It's a great way of referencing the PS4 game. And one thing that they did in this movie that I did not like at all was spider sense. Now, in Civil War, Spider-Man definitely has spider sense. He can detect things from a mile away. Homecoming, they just retconned it. He doesn't have that anymore. He just doesn't even use it. And then Infinity War, he has it again. And then I think Endgame, he might have it too. And then in this movie, he has it again, but this time it's called the computer tingle. It's what the hell? It's so stupid. Just call it spider sense. He even says it's my sixth sense. He doesn't even bother calling it spider sense. Call it spider sense, what it's called. And it doesn't seem to work all that much. And I feel like one of the weaknesses for this version of Spider-Man is that he doesn't really have control over his spider sense or his Peter tingle. My God, stop calling it that. In fact, Peter actually tells Aunt May to stop calling it that. And it's yeah, go call it that. Call it the spider sense. It makes more sense. It's less stupid. So, yeah, I wasn't a fan of how they use spider sense. It's just they call it something stupid. Who came up with that name? It's so stupid. But still, the fact that he has it, he has to use it, even if he doesn't have the control over it. It's still really cool. I like the fact that they did that. And one thing that I really liked was the fact that Peter actually stores his Iron Spider suit in this electrical powered box thing. And it's so cool because it's one of my favorite versions of the Spider-Man suit, and it's a great suit. And I really wish they had they use it more, because I get it, because the way the MCU is set up, every film they have a new suit, but it's still I would have liked that. And actually, there's in the extended cut, there's actually a deleted scene from the actual trailer where it shows him beating up with this gang with the Iron Spider suit, and I really wish I'd kept that in, but they didn't. I think it was for the extended code. I think they might have deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. I really hope that they did that, but still, they got a lot out of it. And I definitely think the Iron Spider suit was my favorite suit. And a really interesting comic book reference actually comes in the form of the suitcase that Peter owns that is a nod to Uncle Ben, because it has the initials BFP, which actually stands for Benjamin Franklin Parker, which is obviously his Uncle Ben, who's obviously no longer living in the MCU, because they didn't want to do the death of Uncle Ben again. So the fact that they had that in there is really cool, because obviously he's no longer alive, which is cool, but still, it was a really cool Easter egg for the character. It's really, really interesting. And another comic book reference is actually the black stealth suit that Peter is given by Nick Fury, because he can't be seen in Europe. It leaves the Stark Tech suit in this hotel room when he's traveling, because he's going away from home all over the world. That's why it's called Far From Home. And the stealth suit definitely is a nod and also takes inspiration from the Spider Noir suit from the comics, which is actually a version of Spider-Man from an Earth where it's the 1930s, and he's Spider-Man Noir, and he wears this black suit, and it's really cool. It was actually in the video game Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that version was voiced by Nick Cage. And it's obviously just a nod to that suit. I mean, I always had the same suit, but it's still it's a nod to it. It's a reference. Oh yeah, it's a little Easter egg, which is very cool. And when Peter's on his flight, he's looking through his tablet for movies to watch, and 5 movies actually pop up on his home menu, and they're all movies that are based on events that have actually happened in the MCU, like The Snap, based off Infinity War and Endgame, Finding Wakanda, which is based off Black Panther, Nova by Eric Salvage, which is actually based off of the character of Eric Salvage from the Thor films, at least the first 2 anyway. And actually, Nova is actually a comic book reference to the superhero, who actually hasn't been in the MCU before, but could be. I mean, I don't know anything about the character. I've heard of the character a little bit, but I don't really know anything about it. So I might get an adaptation soon. But then we also had Hunting Hydra, which is based off of the events of The Winter Soldier, which is one of the better Captain America movies. And then we also have Heart of Iron, which is a Tony Stark story, which is basically the legacy of Tony Stark after his death, which is very special, which obviously is something you watched. So it was really cool to see little Easter eggs from previous MCU films. And one thing that is just kind of done so fast and just so unnecessarily weird was Ned Leeds and Betty Brant's relationship. What the hell? They seem so awkward, and they have nothing in common. And so suddenly it's oh yeah, we started talking on the plane, and turned away for a lot of comment. Like, sure, you didn't really seem like you were really into each other. It's just like it's one of the weirdest relationships I've ever seen. It's just so weird because they go from like having nothing in common and being so awkward to like, yeah, they totally dating now. It's like, what the hell? I don't get that. That was weird. And there were several references to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. And the first one was actually when some of Peter's classmates on the trip when they're in Venice say pizza time, which is actually a reference to Spider-Man 2 when Peter, delivers the pizza a bit late and he's at pizza time, which is very cool. And then another one is actually when Peter is fighting in Mysterio, and then he has an illusion of holding MJ, which is actually a direct reference to when Green Goblin was holding MJ in Spider-Man 1, which is really cool. It's a great reference to that, like, the kind of truth thing, and he actually dives for it. Same thing with the original Spider-Man. It was great. And I really like the little cameo by Quentin Beck himself. Like, yeah, he actually appears before Spider-Man actually meets him. It's a perfect villain foreshadowing, and it's basically when Peter is seeing MJ with Brad Davis, the guy who's also in ties for MJ's affection, which obviously Peter wins over because MJ already likes him already, long since, possibly even since the end of Homecoming. Possibly. So basically he walks away, and in the background we see a guy with a beard and a black hat, and that is Quentin Beck. I'm pretty sure, same face, same actor, so it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna meet him later. Like, who's that? Like, oh, we're gonna meet him later. So there you go. It's just really cool foreshadowing. And this film actually introduced the idea of the multiverse. Although, Mysterio lied about it, it's still real. Because in the first Doctor Strange movie, the Ancient One mentions it, but it will actually be fully explored in Doctor Strange 2 next year. So I'm really, really excited for that. It's gonna be great because, like, yeah, Mysterio lied about it, but like, it's totally real still. It's like it's the best. It's the best new concept that they had. Like, they're doing the first two phases of the world with this Infinity Saga, and the next few phases are going to be about the idea of the multiverse, which is very cool because it's never been done in the MCU before, which is very cool. And when Peter starts naming off the other heroes that Nick Fury could use because he can't help him out because he's on his class trip, he names off Thor, who's off world with the Guardians, and then he also names off Doctor Strange, who is unavailable because he's dealing with the multiverse, and that movie's actually coming out next year, so I'm probably going to explain that. I think the idea in that moment is that that movie is happening at the exact moment he mentions that, like the multiverse of madness and Far From Home are taking place at the exact same time. That's why he's unavailable, and then also Captain Marvel. Now, this is the first time I talk about my Endgame review how I was not a big fan of the fact that the heroes don't actually call each other by the superhero names, which technically makes sense because of what they need to, because they know each other really well. They're already friends, but at the same time, I didn't like that very much. But this one, it's the first time we actually hear Captain Marvel's superhero name being said, because in Captain Marvel it wasn't really a set. I mean, like Nick Fury joked about Marvel and pronounced it Marvel, and that wasn't really meant to be her name. It was meant to be the actual scientist Marvel from the Captain Marvel movie. And so like we never hear Carol ever being called by her superhero name ever, and that somehow Peter knows about that. How does he know what her superhero name is? It makes no sense. Like, there's no way he could have known that. I feel like it's a bit of a contradiction. Like, how would he have known that? How would he have known her name? Like, I mean, obviously he knows Carol Danvers, but like, how would he have known who Carol Danvers really is? Like, how would he have known her superhero name? It makes no sense at all. I was confused about like what. And I kind of found it funny how Maria Hill just doesn't care about Peter at all. And whenever he speaks to her, she's like, yeah. All she ever says is just like, yeah. She really doesn't have time for him. It's just like, it's pretty obvious, but still, it's like, kind of funny, like, really? And I loved Edith. It was such a great concept. Like, obviously it stands for Even Dead I'm the Hero, which is fantastic. That's a great joke, but like, still, it's a really cool piece of technology. And what's really crazy is that he is trying to get rid of Brad Davis, the guy who's competing for MJ's affection just like he is. He accidentally, has him as a target. He doesn't want that because Edith doesn't understand. Edith doesn't actually want to kill him because he doesn't want to do that at all. He wants to just get rid of him. Like, he wants to get rid of him by basically get rid of that picture, which actually does happen. But it's like, still, Edith doesn't understand. Like, really. But it's still, I really thought that you was a really cool concept. It was fantastic. And I really, really love the fact that you could tell that MJ liked Peter back the same way as early as like the opera scene. Like, when she's saying like, we could go in as two, and it's like she likes him the same way. It's so obvious. I mean, I kind of wish that they had built that up a bit more. Like, I think there's a lead scene where they actually build that kind of relationship up and like see why MJ likes him back. but like it's not really explained why she has a thing for him this in the same way, which is very unique. Like it's never happened before where the girl in the hero movie will be after the guy. It's very uncommon, but like it's still really sweet, and I really like that relationship. It's very nice, and because of that, I really like the fact that the chemistry between Peter and MG is the same because they're both a bit awkward, and they're both kind of like not sure what to say, and it's clear that MJ likes Peter back. Like she is infatuated with him. Like it's so obvious. Like really, like she's after him. She's curious about him. She wonders where he's off to, and she is because she knows he's Spider-Man. It's like still really a really sweet way of doing it. So I like it a lot. And one of the license plates on the car that Nick Fury and Maria Hill are in actually has the letters ASM followed by the numbers 28965, which is actually a reference to the first issue of Spider-Man where he fights Multiman. And it's actually the 28th issue published in September of 1965. I thought it was actually because it was published on 28th of December, but it's actually because it's from the 28th issue, which is great because there's been multiple Easter eggs, like in the Hydra Man battle. There's actually a similar Easter egg where it references the comic book title, the issue, and the year that it was published, based off Hydra Man. It's very cool, but like still, it's really incredible how they're able to see little Easter eggs in like that. Because I'm not sure like an avid comic book reader, or if you just kind of like can guess where that probably was from, you would have done that. And Barf makes a short return as the technology that Mysterio uses to create the illusions for the elementals because of the drones. But Barf was actually introduced in Civil War as the new technology that Tony Stark invents to go back to memories and basically create things. And that at least that's binarily augmented retroframing, which is kind of funny how it's called Barf, but like still, like it's still really cool to see it return. And like wow. What a coincidence. And because this marks the end of the Infinity Saga, we actually see one of the scientists from Iron Man 1 who's assisting Mysterio in creating illusions because he's the villain of the story. And it's so cool to see one of the actors from the original Iron Man reprise his role from that movie in this movie. It's so cool. Like it's like the most surprising thing ever. It's like, wow. Super cool. And because Mysterio is known for his illusions, he actually wears a real mocap suit like you would wear if you were playing a CGI character or wearing a CGI costume or something like that, like War Machine or Spider-Man. But it's like so weird how they do that. Where it's like he's wearing a mocap suit like that actually wear if you're playing a character that wears a costume that's not actually there, like Spider-Man, like with the Iron Spider suit. Like it is not actually real, even though it looks real. But it's like it's not. It's fake. But it's still really interesting to see how they did that because he's obviously known for his illusions. It's really, really cool. And when Peter is making his new suit, because, well, the Iron Spider suit was left in his apartment in Queens, and then his original Star Trek suit was actually left in the hotel room during the Prague visit, which is why he actually has to make a new suit because he doesn't have any way to get to it. Probably he still can go back and get it when he goes back home, but, like, still, that's just the way it is. Like, he still has access to those suits, but he doesn't have a suit to go, so like he actually gets to make one, and it's so cool. Like it's the best thing ever. Like oh my god, it's so cool. He basically it's like this little back of him on the jet where he gets to make his own suit, and he has like there's actually different pre-made suits that show up as holograms on the little like menu thing, and then some of them include I don't know what all of them are. They do include the Velocity suit from the comics. I never read that comic book, but I just have heard of it. The original Star Trek suit, which means he could make another one if he wanted to, which probably means that this is how Tony Stark actually made the suit, and then the comic book accurate Iron Spider suit. He actually has a version of the Iron Spider suit, obviously, but the one on the hologram is actually based off the comic books exactly, like it's straight from the comics. And then we also have other ones we didn't recognize, but the one he makes is actually taking the original Star Trek suit, upgrading it a little bit, and turning it black, and then getting rid of the web cartridges, which is actually one of my favorite aspects of the original Star Trek suit. But still, it's really freaking cool. He even has a little parachute he has when he's diving out of the plane. That symbol on his back is no longer red; it's actually white. So it's a really cool suit. Not my favorite, but I definitely liked it a lot. And as Peter is actually making his new suit, there's actually a really cool callback to the first Iron Man film with the ACD song, and that's actually the first song we hear at the very beginning of Iron Man 1. It's really cool. It's like, the fact that Peter loved Led Zeppelin, which is actually the artist that that made the song is awesome. Like, it's a great callback to Iron Man 1. And Far From Home actually marks the first time in the MCU that Peter actually gets his swing around New York. Although, he technically did during Homecoming, like a tiny bit, and then a little bit during Infinity War, but it really wasn't like much of anything really. It was like a couple of times, a few shots. But in this film, at the very end of Far From Home, he actually gets swinging around New York properly. Like, it's so cool, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's really, really cool. Another Easter egg to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is actually a shot towards the end of the film of the building that was used as Norman Osborn's penthouse during the original Spider-Man movie, like the first movie, not any of the other ones, just the first. Although I think that the building that Harry lives in is actually the penthouse, but I'm not actually sure. I think it only makes an appearance in the first film, but it's really cool to see that shot again. It's the same building we see in that original film, so it's really cool. And Spider-Man also gets to use the web wings for the first time since Homecoming. Like, I freaking love web wings. It's such a cool idea because it's straight from the comic. Because the comic books have the web wings, and I would know that because I read the comic. I read quite a few of the Spider-Man comics when I was growing up, and that was a great, idea of including that in the new movies. Like, it's such a cool idea. Like, the fact that they have them again, like, it allows them to glide, which is so cool. It's a shame that they didn't put that in the game when they had this architect suit, but like still, it's so cool. And the Easter egg for the future of the MCU actually comes in the form of a rectangle that we see. It says that we are so excited to show what comes next. We get has 1, 2, 3, and then a fourth circle that has a question mark in there. And then when Spider-Man is meeting MJ in New York, and it's like we're so excited to see what comes next, which is actually not only a reference to Marvel Phase 4, but also a reference to the Fantastic Four, which is so cool. Guys, we're finally going to get the Fantastic Four again, properly. Not that the original movies were bad. I thought that the Fox Fantastic Four movies were awesome. Everyone has their own opinion, but I, for one, loved the hell out of those first two movies. The reboot I never actually bothered trying because it was terrible. But still, those original movies, from 2005 and 2007, they were the most comic book accurate movies I've ever seen, and I loved the hell out of them. They were fantastic. And the final reference to the Tobey Maguire era of Spider-Man was actually in the form of a post-credit scene that features J.K. Simmons as a new version of J.Jonah.Jameson. It was so cool. I legit was shocked when I saw that scene in the theater. I went to the movie in theaters when it came out, and I'm like, oh my god, they actually managed to pull it off, because I had seen interviews with J.K. Simmons asking me if he wanted to ever play Jameson again, and he said he would love to play. Obviously, it would be a new version of him, and they totally did it for this. It was a very special little surprise. Yeah, we got J.K. Simmons back as J.Jonah.Jameson, but it's a new version of him. It's not the same version of it. It's an older version, but it's this Earth's version, because there's obviously an older version. It's another version. It's so cool. I mean, he doesn't have the hair, but he has at least the mustache, which is really cool. He got to play Jameson again. He's probably going to be playing again in the sequel, so it's really cool. I thought that was a really amazing Easter egg. And also, when I knew it was him, it was because one of the guys that was reporting the news at the very end of the scene was like, this comes from the controversial news website, the Daily Beagle.net. I'm like, wait, what? Daily Beagle? That's J.Jonah.Jameson. That's what? Because obviously the Marvel universe is more modern now. They have more 2010s style of doing the news. It's not doing newspapers anymore, but an Infowars kind of thing with that Alex Jones. Alex Jones, I don't know much about him, but I do know I've seen some white reviews of him from Charmix, and he's basically he's a guy who does news stuff, and it's done in the same kind of way where he has where Jameson is doing the news and kind of blaming Spider-Man for the murder of Mysterio, and it's such a cool cameo. Although it won't be just a cameo in the next one. Apparently he's gonna get more of an appearance, but it was still so freaking cool to see him again. It was awesome. And the end of this film with the post-credit scene definitely sets up for the third Spider-Man movie, which actually is happening. There was a bit of a scare earlier last year with the fact that Sony and Disney couldn't work out an agreement for Spider-Man, so he was placed out of the MCU for the time being, kind of like a timeout kind of thing. And then Tom Holland drunk child Bob Iger and got him to get a new jamming agreement going so he could be in the MCU, because imagine if they hadn't been able to get him in the MCU. It would have been so awkward just to leave the post credits and like that. Yeah, everyone knows who he is now. So it kind of sucks that way, but we're not gonna get an answer for that. Finally, they fixed it, and it only took about a month, and they have a new deal, so he's gonna definitely be appearing in the next one, which is fantastic. I think what the end of this film really does is set us up for the third film, And Kevin Feige actually teased that it's going to be a very different Spider-Man story that we've ever seen on film ever, because it's going to be the idea of everyone knows who he is, and if we know anything about the comic books or even the Tobey Maguire era of Spider-Man, is that it never ends well. Like, with the original Spider-Man film, it ended with Mary Jane telling him how she felt, and he couldn't actually tell her he felt the same way. He wanted to, like, he was in love with her too, but he couldn't tell her because he knew that he was going to make enemies, and those enemies would go after his loved ones and possibly either injure them or kill them. Something similar might happen in this one, where in essence the whole world knows who he is. That the Sinister Six could come out, and start taking everything away from him, making him suffer, and possibly putting his loved ones in harm's way, like MJ now, because they're now a thing now, which is crazy. But like, still, the fact that everyone knows who he is insane. It definitely has the potential to make the greatest Spider-Man story ever put to film, which is what Kevin Feige teased, and it's gonna be awesome. And the end credits scene, oh my god, it was incredible. It was such a shocker because it turns out that Maria Hill and Nick Fury are actually the Skrulls, Talos and his wife from Captain Marvel. Obviously, they don't age, but at the same time, it's so really cool to see them again, and it's like a shocker because they were them the whole time, which means that Talos could have been Fury during Age of Ultron, because he says that if toast is cut diagonally, I can't eat it, which means that he eats diagonally cut toast, which means that he could have been Talos the entire time, at least for certain missions. But apparently, the director of Far From Home said that Nick Fury was Nick Fury during Infinity War and Endgame, but not during Far From Home, which means that he must have been in disguise as Talos for certain missions. I don't know exactly how that worked, but it was like such a shocker. And it turns out the real Nick Fury is on the Thor base, which which is actually in outer space, which means that he's actually going to be setting up a team to face cosmic threats, which is so cool. Also, on that same ship, when he's on the little projection room, which is actually projecting a Tahiti-like simulation, there's actually a reference to the Fantastic Four, which is actually a Thor from the screen next to him, which actually possibly might be a reference to Fantastic Four being the next big characters they introduced, which is fantastic. So it was really cool. Like, seeing the Skrull still again and seeing the real Nick Fury, like, what is going on here? I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm so interested to see what's going to happen next. It's going to be crazy. And that's pretty much all I can say about Spider-Man Far From Home. It was such an incredible film. It was funny. It was action-packed. It was a lot better than the first film. But definitely, Mysterio is honestly a great villain, and I'm really excited to see where the franchise is going to go next. But like, seriously, I was so surprised by a lot of what happened in the film. Just like everything about it was fantastic. I definitely like the chemistry between MJ and Peter. Like, it's obvious that MJ likes Peter. We don't actually know that until like later in the film, but like, it's so obvious. Peter has a big crush on MJ for reasons unknown, because they don't really seem to be real close friends really. But later on, it really seems that MJ has a thing for him, and it's so obvious because she definitely has a big crush on him too. They both feel the same way, which is like so like amazing. So I really thought that was an incredible way of doing a love story. Like, in previous films, it's worked out, but like in this film, it was so sweet. Like, I really thought it was amazing, especially since MJ is a character. She's not MJ from a comic like Mary Jane, but like her name is definitely taking inspiration from Mary Jane. I mean, her name is actually Michelle Jones, but like the fact that she goes by MJ is a nod to the comics and also the Tobey Maguire era. So it's really cool, but also like the fact that she likes him back very much so is just like wow. And then also like, she has a really hard time getting close to people. It's just like a very interesting way, like really a diverse way of putting things, because it proves that maybe she has autism. I don't know what's going on there, but like still, very good movie. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about this movie. I love the hell of it. It was fantastic. It really sets for more films, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes next. And it was a great film. It was fantastic, action-packed, funny. They go all over the world. It was great. I mean, the villain was great. Seeing how the world has been affected by Endgame is great. Just everything about it. Peter constantly seeing Tony everywhere. It's just like it affects him a lot more. Like, he really is affected by it a lot, and that's what's really incredible about this movie, because it really was it was a great film, and it really was a better film than Homecoming. Homecoming was fun, but I didn't enjoy it as much as this film. This film was just like, it went way out of the territory that the first film them because obviously they're going far from home, so like, it makes sense. But like, still, I freaking love the film, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave this movie with a 10 out of 10. I know that I do that a lot, but like, still, a couple of flaws here and there, some errors here and there, but really, that's nothing. There's nothing to really be ashamed about. Like that's nothing to really say that movie was bad. It was a great film. It really improved upon its predecessor and really made it better. And really, it was fun. So I'm really happy about how this film turned out. It was great. Although it was kind of weird how it came out. It came out right after Endgame, and they had to avoid spoilers. Was like for the first trailer we got, it made it feel like Endgame never actually happened, because when I first saw the trailer, it looked like it had taken place right after Homecoming, like literally right after Homecoming. It was incredible. It was so weird, but like they managed to not spoil anything. But like he's going on a trip. Like it was marketed to make it look like it was actually set right after Homecoming, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. It was obviously more than that. But like still, I was thoroughly impressed by it. It was a great film, and I really enjoyed it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more episodes of this series. Also, make sure to click that bell to enable alerts, so you don't miss any of my uploads. And I'll be back next week with another episode. Alright? See you.